Have you ever had that friend or family member that you didn't know was looking after you, and then later you found out they'd been looking after you the whole time? Yeah, we're going to talk about that today from Proverbs chapter 8. Hey guys, welcome back to God's Word Made Simple by Simple Servant Ministries. My name is Aaron Hawk, and if this is your first time with us, I just want to say thank you and welcome. God's Word Made Simple is an online discipleship ministry dedicated to taking God's Word and making it simple. So what we want to do is we want to help you understand God's Word so that you can apply it to your life and grow in your relationship with the Lord. Today we're going to be finishing chapter 8 of the book of Proverbs, so if you haven't watched the other videos, go find them in the series in Proverbs and listen at least to the rest of chapter 8, and then come back. It'll make a little more sense, but again, the Proverbs do stand on their own in a way that a lot of the other scriptures don't. So, and if you want an explanation of that, see my intro to Proverbs or Proverbs chapter 1 video. All right, so we're going to jump right here in verse 22. Now, remember I have said several times in the series in Proverbs that wisdom is personified as female in the book of Proverbs. And I don't know, but I think it is because partly the language and partly I think it's because the idea of wisdom is tender and loving. But as I have also said, Jesus is also identified as wisdom. So there are two different ways of using the word wisdom. And they are not the same because Jesus was not female. But there are two different ways of using the word wisdom in terms of the way that we understand the personality or personification of wisdom. And often in the book of Proverbs, it is female, like a mother lovingly caring and instructing her children. But in this section, this one is, in light of the New Testament, very clearly talking about Jesus. Again, we understand this because of the New Testament. If we were reading this in the Old Testament without the New Testament available, we would not understand it. We would have understood that this was likely talking about the Messiah, but we would not understand that it was talking about Jesus for sure, and we probably wouldn't have been certain that it was talking about the Messiah. But in verse 22, we're about to get into this, and it is very clearly talking about Jesus. If you're not following me on this, Jesus is pre-existent, meaning before the creation of the world. Jesus is God. You have 100% God, 100% man. I don't understand it, nor do I have time to try and explain it today. I mean, I understand it, just not fully, in other words. So I don't have time to try and explain it. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't have time to try and explain it today. But check out my series in Genesis, especially the first few chapters, if you want a little more discussion on that topic. All right, so let's get started in chapter 8, verse 22 of the book of Proverbs. The Lord possessed me. Now remember, this is wisdom talking. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old. So in other words, before the foundations of the world. And we'll understand that in a second, but that's what it's getting at. From everlasting I was established. From the beginning, from the earliest times of earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no springs abounding with water. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills, I was brought forth. And why is this being said right now? Well, two reasons. One, to understand that wisdom, i.e. in this case we're really ultimately referring to Jesus, has a history that can be counted on, but it's also a way of showing us that we need to be humble because we don't really understand what's best. Who is usually going to understand life better? The person who has lived longer. All other things being equal, two people equally dedicated to understanding life, all their life being equal, all things being equal, the person that's lived the longest will understand better because they have more life experience. So this is also a way of showing us that we need to be humble because not only before we were born, right, but before any of this stuff existed. Okay, so that's kind of what it's getting at here. So let's see. Verse 25, before the mountains were settled, in other words, put into place, before the hills I was brought forth. So not only mountains, but even hills, right? While he had not yet made the earth and the fields, nor was the first dust of the world. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he inscribed a circle on the face of the deep, you can insert in parentheses, I was there. That's kind of the theme that's going on here. When he made firm the skies above, you can insert, I was there. When the springs of the deep became fixed, you can insert, I was there. When he set for the sea its boundary, so that the water would not transgress his command, you can insert, I was there. This is a literary device. You're supposed to be filling that blank in your mind, right? This is wisdom's resume here, right? When he marked out the foundations of the earth, you can insert, I was there. And just in case you missed it, verse 30, then I was beside him as a master workman. And again, we know through our series in Genesis that Jesus was actually the agent of creation, and we see that being reaffirmed here. He was beside him as a master workman. And I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him. And again, this is a dual understanding of the word wisdom. And again, we only know this because of the New Testament. Rejoicing in the world, his earth, and having my delight in the sons of men. So we understand not just that Jesus delights in the sons of men, but that wisdom in general is designed to bless us, not curse us. But we have to understand and use wisdom to receive that blessing. That's why the whole previous section in chapter 8 was talking about the various types of blessings, specifically wealth and power. Verse 32, now therefore, O sons. So now that we've covered my resume, now therefore, O sons, this is Solomon talking to his children again, but this is also wisdom continuing to speak. Listen to me, for blessed are they who keep my ways. Heed instruction and be wise and do not neglect it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, wisdom speaking here, watching daily at my gates, waiting at my doorposts. So remember, in this time, as I've covered in previous videos, if you wanted to go where everybody was going to go, you'd go to the town center, you'd go to the streets, and you'd go to specifically the gates of the city. That's where most of the politicking and meeting happened, because everybody had to pass through those gates. So now wisdom is turning the phrase, if you will. It's flipping the script. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates. See, previously wisdom was going to the gates of the city calling out. Now wisdom is saying, you're coming to me. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at my doorposts. So in other words, you should be seeking wisdom, not just waiting for it to show up. For he who finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who sins against me injures himself. All those who hate me love death. And honestly, this is kind of common sense here, right? Although they say common sense is lacking, and I can probably attest to that. But right, if you want to follow wisdom, you know that wisdom is going to bless you in your life. So to choose wisdom is to choose blessing. And if you understand that choosing wisdom is choosing blessing and helping you lead a better life, then not choosing wisdom is by default choosing death. In other words, it's dumb. If you sin against wisdom, you sin against yourself. If you reject wisdom, you are rejecting a blessing in your life, or the blessing of a good life. And remember, a good life is going to be defined differently in different circumstances for different people. God's plan for every human being is not the same. But if you want to grow and be blessed, you need to seek after wisdom. To reject wisdom is to reject that blessing. It is a self-defeating action. So I want to encourage you today, what is God teaching you? Here's my question for you. What is God teaching you? What is it that you need wisdom in, and where are you going to find your answers? All right, guys, that is it for Proverbs chapter 8. I just want to thank you again for joining us. Don't forget, let me know in the comments what you're thinking, exactly what I already asked about what is God teaching you. You can put that in the comments too. Show me some love with a like button. And then if you want to see more videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on that bell icon to receive all notifications. Thank you guys very much, and God bless.